Is it working? I think it's working. All right. End of my day, sort of. Well, it's past the end of my day. Finally done. Sitting on my boat. What time is it? 6 o'clock at night. It's up at 4 o'clock. Met up with a couple of fellas from here. Had a great day. Great conversation. Made a couple new friends. Caught a bunch of fish. It's a great day. Long one. It's funny, when I start fishing in the morning, 4 in the morning, you're up, motor over, pick up whoever, go throw the lines down, and I'm in the back of the boat, and I don't sit down once. Not until it's over. So right now, we'll see if I can stay awake for this, but what else am I going to do, right? Watch some mindless shit on the internet or something. If I got time, I'd rather do something good with it, which is this. Now, guess who wrote in? Guess who? The fine lady, Kathy Flynn, wrote in an email analysis part 4. Sweet. And then I thought, well, shit, what happened? I missed out on part 3, and I had to, if you're listening right now, Kathy, I searched my inbox for your name for part 3, and I didn't find it. And then I went into my trash box, and it was in there, and I opened it up, and I'm like, what's it doing in here? And I opened it up, and it was a blank email. So your third analysis, part 3, came as a blank. That kind of sucks. But I'm sure you still got it, right? So send it when you can. We would love to hear it. Here we go. Oh, my glasses are all bent out of shape. Whatever, I'll make this happen. You guys ready? Email analysis part 4. Yeah. Hello, Steve. I'm happy to report that my home and life are my own again. The neighbor whose husband shot her is out of the hospital and on the long road to recovery, and I no longer have her or her kids sleeping on my hide-a-bed. Holy shit. I'm back to the project and hopefully no more emergencies. I'll say. That sounds pretty frickin' crazy. Part 3 of the analysis was a wrap-up of the physical attributes of the Sabe. This section today is about the activity the Sabe were involved in at the time a human encountered them. The number of people reporting was the same number as the emails, 705. The single most common activity reported was throwing things at or toward a human, with 108 people reporting that activity. Throwing rocks, no size mentioned, had 29 reports. Throwing big rocks or boulders had 15 reports. Throwing boulders into water had 9 reports, and throwing pebbles and small rocks or pine cones had 13. Hitting a human with something thrown had 5 reports, and hitting a tent had 4. Throwing branches, throwing logs, and throwing trees each had 4 reports. Throwing things, non-specific, had 3 reports. Uprooting trees had 7 reports. Uprooting trees and shoving them upside down into the ground had 4. Wood or tree knocks was reported 44 times. Breaking branches was reported 41 times. Breaking trees had 27 reports. Shaking or swaying trees had 15 mentions, and shaking or rattling brush had 10. Trees hitting trees had 5 reports, and breaking brush was mentioned 3 times. The next activity the Sasquatch frequently engage in is watching people. 40 times this activity was witnessed. Deliberately making eye contact was reported 37 times. I'd like to remind people that the indigenous elders warn people not to make eye contact with these creatures. Refusing to make eye contact was only reported 3 times. Staring at humans was next with 25 reports. A behavior only had to be reported by 3 people to be considered a pattern. So, 25 is a well-documented habit, in my opinion. Looking in windows had 13 reports. Knowing when it's being watched was reported by 11 people. So, if you see one and think it doesn't know you're watching it, be warned that it knows. Walking on a porch or a deck had 5 reports, and blocking the light from a window had 4. Knocking or banging on a door was reported 3 times. Opening a door was reported 4 times. Damaging property, including houses, equipment, tires, etc., was reported 20 times. Hitting the side of a house had 10 reports. Hitting the side of an RV, a boat, or a vehicle as someone sleeps in it was reported 7 times. Getting into garbage was reported 3 times. Well, that's surprising. I thought we read getting into the garbage quite a few times. Pushing in, shaking, or otherwise touching an occupied tent had 11 reports. Standing over an occupied tent was reported 3 times. Tearing up a camp was mentioned 6 times. Several of them surrounding a camp and making noise all night was reported 3 times. Walking around a house or camp at daylight was reported 3 times, while the same activity at night had 8 reports. Circling a camp just out of sight or while invisible had 5 reports, and circling a human on foot had 4. Chasing a person had 12 reports. Pacing, paralleling, or following a human on foot while remaining audible but not visible had 46 reports. Pacing a vehicle had 4 reports. Moving through brush, a human can't, was reported 3 times. Picking up, patting down, holding down, pushing, shaking, sitting, or otherwise touching a human had 9 reports. Following a human to their vehicle before showing themselves was reported 3 times. Herds, ushers, or drives humans away had 5 reports. Bluff charges had 8 reports. Enjoy messing with people was specifically mentioned 4 times. When they leave, they go the same direction the human has to go to reach their vehicle was mentioned 4 times. Terrifying dogs was reported 40 times. Terrifying horses was mentioned 40 times. Was mentioned 4 times. Stealing a human's catch or kill was reported 3 times. Creeping or sneaking was reported 8 times. Hunching over in a creeping or sneaking walk or run was noted 4 times. Saving a human life was reported 4 times. Killing dogs was reported 5 times. Killing deer was reported 9 times, and killing coyotes was mentioned 3 times. Hearing a loud thump as one drops from a tree was reported 6 times. Leaping from tree to ground, or hiding in trees had 5 reports, and sitting in trees had 3 reports. Dragging or carrying a dead animal had 6 reports. Drinking from its hands had 3 reports. Astonishing or incredible or other description of speed had a total of 20 reports. Running full out through the forest with no slowing for obstacles had 6 reports. Jumping up a hill had 4 reports. Traveling nearly vertical slopes with ease had a total of 8 reports. Peeking from behind a tree, a boulder, a building had 7 reports. Walking into the forest from a standing, sitting, or crouching or bending position had 24 reports. Running away had 14 reports. Squatting or crouching had 7 reports. Crouching or squatting in water had 3 reports. Squatting or crouching beside a road or trail had 3 reports. Backing up and stepping or jumping behind a tree had 3 reports. Walking on a human-made trail had 3 reports. Standing beside a trail or road had 3 reports. And deliberately standing in the open, in a road or a trail, had 17 reports. Deliberately coming into view had 14. And stepping into a trail in front of humans had 2 reports, for a total of 39 reports of Sabe wanting to be seen. Moving, crashing through the forest, breaking branches and trees as it plows through but can't be seen had 22 reports. Swaying had 8 reports. Using the sun to hide from humans had 3 reports. Being heard approaching but not leaving had 3 reports. Running across the road had 5 reports. Crossing a road had an additional 5. Stepping in front of a moving vehicle but not being killed had 2 reports. And darting in front of a vehicle also had 2 reports, with one saying they heard happy whoops after one raced a car, then outran it and darted in front of it and across the road ahead of it. Like Counting Coup? 3 reported Sasquatch hiding. 6 reported one disappearing, non-specifically. 3 reported one disappearing paranormally. 6 reported that piles of branches were placed to block a road or trail. 8 reported roads or trails blocked by trees. 3 reported asterisks, runes, or oddly placed sticks. 5 reported structure building. 29 reported game being scared out of the area. 4 reported that the forest went silent after Asabe leaves. And 61 reported silence while one is in the area. There were 6 reports of antler, bones, sticks, or rocks being clicked or rubbed. This activity possibly is related to playing loud music, as 2 of the 6 reported that they played loud music prior to the encounter. A larger analysis may reveal a pattern here, and after I finish this current project, I plan to do another analysis of an additional 300 emails, for a total of just over 1,000 encounters. I'll let you know if additional patterns emerge after that second analysis. Additional expressions, gestures, or other non-vocal communications were reported by 60 people and are as follows. Heavy stomping, or giant footsteps that are earth-shaking and sound like bass drums, were reported by 39 people. This is a deliberate intimidation because they are capable of moving completely silently, as evidenced by sneaking up behind people. Mind speak was reported by 14 people. Rock clacking, not the clicking mentioned in conjunction with music, was reported by 4 people. Teeth clicking was also reported by 4. Looks of hate, anger, hostility, or disgust was stated in a previous segment, reported by 13 people. Grins or smiles were reported by 4 people. Well, at least 25% of them are happy about us. That's not bad. This concludes this segment of the study. The next will be vocalizations and paranormal activity and human responses to encounters. Best regards, Kathy. Whew! Holy shit, Kathy. Thank you so much. You are such a generous, kind woman to go out of your way and spend that amount of time doing this for all the people here. That's very, very generous of you. Very kind. Thank you so much. Interesting, right? Take from it what you will, or leave it. Can't wait to see number 3 and the future reports coming in. You definitely got my attention. Excuse me. This next email is titled Trauma and Encounters. Hi, Steve. I noticed you were recently asking questions about why witnesses and people who have had close encounters are often unable to describe what they have experienced. It's almost as if they have been silenced by some hidden force. I have a responsibility to comment on this question because I was one of those people who was unable to speak about it. It has taken me many years to face the thing that most frightened me. It wasn't just fear, it was also an understanding of how crucial it is to them to be inconspicuous. Psychology tells us that a trauma can be revisited at any time and stays in the memory. And this is one of the main reasons why people prefer not to speak about it. And there's another group who are unable to speak about it because that memory has been driven so deeply into their subconscious they are unable to access the details. In my case, I knew something had happened that was best left unsaid for the first half of my existence. Those who were close to me knew to avoid a certain subject because I would become extremely defensive. For this reason, I think I avoided people altogether, except in later years, and moving away from the area helped to live a normal life. The burden of knowledge was too much for me, and I must have buried the bulk of my contacts so deep, those memories were almost inaccessible. The people who are most vociferous, I hope I pronounced that correctly, to deny the existence of this species could be the very people who have become closest and are denying what has happened in their past. Yeah, I got a hunch about that too, actually. I've seen some hunters really freaking out about people talking about this, didn't want to talk about, wanted me to shut up at all costs, and I found that quite curious. Why is that, right? I know that had to be true because for many years I would strongly deny. Now to get to the question that underlies what I think you were asking, are they somehow manipulating our minds to avoid being discovered? I believe not. I believe they are simply scaring us to such an extent that we become traumatized and that memory becomes hidden deep in our subconscious. What may be happening is that during an encounter, they become aware that they have been spotted. In order to prevent that witness communicating what they've seen to others, they may try to instill trauma to avoid a witness speaking. I hope this is not true, but at the same time, I suspect it is. You never know. Communicating an encounter to someone can be extremely difficult. Trying desperately to relay what happened to a curious person and being unable to communicate because how can you describe something that was as close to death as you can possibly get? She must have known something terrible had happened by the look on my face. There were no words. They were stuck in the back of my throat and tears began to flow. I never cried. That was just being followed by a small group through the woods. Nothing really happened, just being followed. That was enough to reduce me to a shadow of a person. Now I can tell you that story 30 years later, and have done. It was very useful mentally to get it out and on a paper. A giant leap for one scared individual. But it's the same as many witness encounters, so I won't bore you with it. Thanks, Steve. You're my only portal for discussion. We can't leave us hanging. You got to share it. It doesn't matter if it's been repeated. Who gives a shit? You got to get it out, man. If you would, if you could, if you want to. I'd like to hear it. I'd like to hear it word for word myself, and I know there is a shit pile of people here that would too, all right, man? You don't bore us. Nobody bores us. We're getting this truth out, word for word, from every single one of us. And I'm super glad it helped you put a pen to paper. This channel's helping a lot of people. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Appreciate you sending that in, man. That was a great, great chunk of thought thrown at us to keep our wheels spinning. Next, Alan. First name only, please. Hold on a minute. All right, so right off the bat, somebody puts their whole name and I'm reading out loud and then it says first name only. All right. I work in the public still. No problem. I got you. Hi, Steve. I've just recently found your channel. Small world, isn't it? Well, let me give you a little history first. I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains of south-central Pennsylvania. I spent my childhood in the woods, hunting with my grandfather before I could even understand the concept of what hunting was. Then, as I stopped digging through the leaves, 6 or 7 years old, and trying to make enough noise to keep the game away, driving my grandfather mad, I slowly became in tune with nature because the man who taught me so much in life shared a respect and connection with the land that was unspoken but loud and proud. I learned from him all about the forests and soon became a marksman and a respected hunter myself. I had no fear ever. Oftentimes in my spot atop some of the most beautiful mountains on earth, an hour before first light, we lived in the Black Forest of Bedford County. Our property is backed right up to the endless expanse of some of the best hunting Pennsylvania offered. I first saw these beings as a young adult, telling my grandfather, "Look, Granddad, a brown bear while we were hunting spring gobbler in a hollow Granddad always referred to as Verbal's place. I remember him placing a hand on my knee, giving me the hushed look, and holding his large hand that once was that of a Golden Globe boxer during his World War II naval career, and later building America, one concrete block, stone, and brick at a time. "That's not a bear, Alan," he whispered, keeping his hand held up in greeting. Respect and pride hung heavy in the air, and I watched in shock as I realized he was right. This was definitely no bear. "He's my grandson, Alan," he told this being who moved rhythmically, almost hypnotically, along the creek bed that snaked through the bottom. Steve, I will never forget this day, or what happened next. And even today, that first meeting still remains crystal clear, and has given me the lesson I live my life by. Respect our land and our neighbors. Steve, a voice from inside my head said my name, Alan, as clear as a bell. Then told me sternly, "Live as your grandfather does." That's all he told me. And I sat there with mouth agape, catching flies, until my grandfather shook me out of it and asked me in his most serious voice, "What did he say to you?" I tried to talk, but I couldn't get it out. And my granddad sort of chuckled and said, "Don't worry about it. That's between you and him." I looked back down the steep valley to say goodbye and try to deal with what had just happened, but the being was gone. Steve, I was 14 years old that day, and the woodman I met that day was an easy 10 feet, if he was an inch. Hours later, my grandfather, his attention back to spring gobbler, had picked up a faint call from some yelps I was making off, a combination of a slate call and a yelper my granddad made me from the wing bones of wild turkeys we harvested. It took us another hour of coaxing, but eventually we could hear the gobbler was getting close. And I got down in position carefully, laying the old Model 12 across the moss-covered deadfall they were using as a natural blind. My grandfather's a great teacher, and by that age I was easily winning shooting competitions and turkey shoots, and I knew only to ever take a kill shot. Shoot them in the head so they don't suffer. And so I waited until the gobbler was in range, and I had a clean shot, and I let the Model 12 and high brass load do its job. He had a nice beard and looked majestic with his beautiful tail feathers fanned out in spectacular view. As we were cleaning him, I heard the loudest buck snort ever. He had to have been right on top of us, and I turned, startled, waiting to see the deer and maybe catch a glimpse of the rack as he retreated, doing his best to get our scent out of his nostrils. But that wasn't a buck. My grandfather said, smiling, "Way too loud, son." You could feel the bass, and I knew then that the woodman had been watching us hunt and somehow approved of the kill. We field dressed the turkey, and I went about the task of covering the insides with leaves. But Granddad told me not to bother. They'd be eaten before we were back to the truck. I finally got up the nerve to ask my grandfather on the drive home if that was a Bigfoot who talked to us in the woods that day, and he told me, no, that was a woodsman. There's no such thing as Bigfoot. And I knew that he respected this being, and that the name Bigfoot was offensive to this woodsman. I had 1,000 questions over the years. He answered all of them that he could, verbal, or the woodsman answered the rest. Granddad also asked me to keep this between the two of us because people wouldn't understand, and some folks would ruin it for these woodsmen. I never said a word to another living soul, but Granddad could always tell when I would come in from hunting if I had another meeting with them. Verbal has a large family, but it would take me years to gain trust enough to meet them all. It's a difficult thing to explain because while I consider it a relationship, possibly even a friendship, it's not anything like our relationships. I've spent a lifetime in these woods. I, laughing, say that the land is owned by my family and has been for generations, but we may have a piece of paper that says it's ours, but I know the same thing my grandfather knew, It's their home. And no piece of paper is going to change that. Oh my God, does it feel good to get this off my chest. I've kept these woodsmen and women bottled up since 1980. I've had too many things happen to put it all in one email, Steve, because some of the encounters are just mind-blowing. But I promise to share them with your group because I feel it's beyond important. These beings understand our language perfectly and know things that leave me in states of utter confusion. I did travel away from Pennsylvania for a while, working in Colorado as a guide, and I must tell you, they live all around us. I've hunted elk, geese, bear, and deer in your wonderful forests as well, and nearly every forest in the States. I've made a life from the outdoors, and these woodsmen can communicate across the country and don't have the government listening in on their cell phone calls like we do. Yet they do speak to each other because I've been called out by name in the Rockies of Colorado and been told non-verbally that the one I call verbal told them of me. Steve, I know what this sounds like because I'm a man now of nearly 60, and I still cannot wrap my brain around these people's communication. I know that they somehow can read our character, if that makes sense to you, and know immediately what kind of person we are. And yes, for your viewers, they are massive. I still am awestruck by their size and agility, but more so by their minds. That is where the real wonder lies. I hope this helps a little. God knows it's lifted a little weight from my soul, and I promise to send Chapter 2 soon. They call me Colorado, even though I'm a Pennsylvania kid. Don't ask me why. I love and respect all, and I also urge all of you to do what you love. And if it involves the wilderness, then enter it with reverence and respect, and you'll be fine. But that said, carry a firearm that you're proficient with, because other things in the woods do not have the intellect of the woodsman. Till next time, your friend and fellow outdoorsman, Colorado. Holy shit. What do you think of that one? Wow. More. Send me more. I want to hear more, please, Mr. Colorado. Alan. Send more. Now, one thing I'm curious about, your father said we don't talk about them to people. What changed your mind? I'm wondering. What made you come forward now to us? I'm curious. Man, I feel like my eyeballs are sunburnt to rat shit. Forgot my frickin' sunglasses again today. Can't believe that. Oh. But anyway, yeah, I'd be really curious to know why you recently decided to do this, and I'm very glad you did. I'm very happy you did. Appreciate your time, big time. Maybe throw that down with the next chapter, if you would. I could ask a million kabillion questions, but I'll sit back patiently and wait and see what you deliver next for us. Anyway, that's it. That's all I can do. My eyes are bleeding. I'm done. I got no energy. I'm done. I gotta go to bed. So, the description is the description, sorry. All my links are in the description below this video, okay? Anything you're curious about. Sarah's decals, her stickers, her t-shirts and hats, they're all in the link below to her store. And the backup channel link's there. And I think that's about it. I'm done. I'm so toasted. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to wake up 4 o'clock tomorrow, and I'm going to fish my frickin' ass off, and we're going to have an awesome day. And hopefully I can pull this off again tomorrow. Please, please, please do what you love to do, all right? Because you never know when it's going to come to an end, all right? You don't know when it's going to come to an end. Do what you love to do now. I'll be back.